So Ghost in the Shell is the live-action adaptation of the 1995 anime Ghost in the Shell, which itself was an adaptation of the 1989 manga, I hope I pronounced that right, which means it's kind of a comic book movie. It's a remake, it's a live-action adaptation of an animated film, so it's like everything Hollywood loves these days, so let's talk about it. So Ghost in the Shell takes place in the not-too-distant future where humans have become obsessed with robotic enhancements. As the next phase in the evolution of enhanced humans, they take the brain of a dying woman and they put it into a fully artificial body, and that is who Scarlett Johansson plays, the major character. In this movie, she's kind of the enforcer for a corporation, and there's an evil terrorist guy that hates the corporation for some reason. She's trying to figure out why and stop terrorist guy, and thus we have our movie. It digs kind of into the ideas of what is life and what is reality and how do you know what is and isn't real, and the sort of idea of exploring all of this philosophically speaking while being a big sci-fi adventure while having lots of action and adventure. And how is it? It's all right. So as I said before, this is based off a 1995 anime. I had almost no knowledge of the anime itself going into this movie. I'd seen the trailers for the movie and I read a few kind of synopsis type things about it, but really I was going in mostly kind of with a fresh perspective, just knowing that it kind of been an influence on The Matrix, those types of things, but very little knowledge of it. So I am evaluating this just as a movie in and of itself, not as an adaptation of either the manga or the anime. With that said, let's dive into the good. Right off the bat, the movie's just kind of pretty gorgeous. It looks beautiful. Almost every single image in the movie could be like a freeze frame to be the background on your computer or something like that. Very nicely done. The visuals all have like a special look to them. They're interesting. It's not just good special effects, but it's an interesting production and design to it. They thought through it and made it both aesthetically pleasing as well as something that looks like they could exist in this world that they've created. The story moves rather quickly. We don't linger anywhere too long. We've got plenty of action sequences. It sets up kind of certain mysteries, has reveals all throughout the movie, and it's under 2 hours long, so it doesn't feel like it overstays its welcome. It's very economical as a film, so you get a good bit of story and a good bit of action in it. And while none of the characters kind of blew me away, they're all likable, and each of them kind of get little things about them that make them unique and kind of resonate with you. Like there's a boss character in this throughout the first half of the movie isn't particularly interesting, and then you get into the second half and you get to see really who he is and really what he's capable of. And it gets a lot more interesting. And there's little details like that throughout the entire movie that just kind of make you kind of resonate with everybody just a little bit. And as a sci-fi film, it does what good sci-fi films should do, is kind of explore big ideas of what is reality and just having something to it that goes beyond just, look, there's a robot lady that shoots people. No, it explores what would her experience be in life and the sort of ways that she would be used by corporations, and it explores ideas which I really appreciate about the film. But as I said, the movie's just okay, and so let's talk about the bad. And really the overlying problem for me with this movie is the entire thing just felt so familiar to me and predictable. And it feels a little bit unfair to say that because this movie's, based off of a film that's 22 years old and based off a manga that's almost 30 years old. And so many of the things that I watch now that this movie reminded me of were influenced by the original anime and the manga. And so it's a little bit unfair, but at the same time, that's the problem with making a movie like this so late after it's been so influential. It feels behind the times. It feels behind where we're at. And so these sorts of ideas of synthetic life forms and what is life and what isn't, those themes have been explored in other movies. The stylized look of this we've seen in other movies. Even the stylized action in it feels just kind of like, okay, I mean, it's not bad action, but it's not particularly good. We've just seen better in these types of settings, these types of things. And so it just feels like too little too late. And as I said at the beginning, I had not seen the original or read the original source material. And so in saying that, I'm just evaluating this film as it is itself. And I don't know if the originals explore the ideas better and have a more of a freshness to them, and that's a weakness of this film being a poor representation of the source material, or if it's just the simple fact that the ideas have been explored by other movies that were influenced by it, and therefore it just feels dated while at the same time kind of being the original. The other thing to talk about with this movie is the casting of Scarlett Johansson in the lead role in the film. Now, as I've said repeatedly, I've not seen the original source material, but I've seen images, and it seems very much like the character in the original looks Japanese to me. And in this movie, it feels an awful lot like they're trying to make Scarlett Johansson look kind of Japanese in the movie, given her haircut, the color of her hair, and other things about her, which I'm not one to like point fingers and be like whitewashing or get worked up about which rich actor gets cast in a blockbuster. However, as I'm watching the movie, it's very distracting to see Scarlett Johansson in this setting, looking the way she does, knowing what the source material is. You're just watching the movie and being like, this is weird, because there's a lot of white people in the movie that look like white people, and then there's Scarlett Johansson, who it looks like they're trying to make look Asian. And that's just what it looks like to me, and pretty clearly what they're doing given the source material and the context of the film we're watching. And it is distracting and took me out of the movie. That was something I was paying attention to as opposed to the story, which as a big fan of sci-fi and action, I should be an easy person to get drawn into it, and I was being distracted by that. Overall, this was a movie I did enjoy, but it just kind of felt, as I said before, like too little too late. It didn't bring something new to this type of genre, and perhaps that's just because it's based off source material that since it came out has been built upon, and this just feels kind of like behind the times. And even the action itself was just kind of like, that kind of looks cool, but at the same time, it is gorgeous, it is enjoyable. It's just not a great movie. Overall, I'm gonna give this one a 7 out of 10. It is enjoyable, it's just not great. If you're a fan of sci-fi, it's probably something you should check out. If you're not a fan of sci-fi, this is not the movie that's going to win you over. With all that said, if I'm being honest, this is one that you should probably just check out on Redbox. You won't feel like you wasted your money, but if you see it in the theater, you might be pretty disappointed with it. But that's just my opinion on Ghost in the Shell. What's your opinion on it? Tell me in the comment section below, especially if you've seen the original anime or read the original manga. Tell me in the comment section, kind of give me some of those deeper thoughts, because I am very ignorant as to the source material. And I don't want to just talk about Ghost in the Shell, I want to talk about Ghost in the Shell with you, so comment down below. If you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I like to review movies, I talk about movie news from time to time, and I'm working on something really cool right now called the Masters of Movie Trivia. Also, my son joins in from time to time secretly. So if you want to check this out, it'll be up this Friday, April 9th, the second episode where I take on 3 people and I get to take my chance. We will see, am I a master of movie trivia, or am I just another person that thinks he is, kind of pathetically claiming to be good at movie trivia when I'm not actually so good at it? We'll find out this Friday. Hey buddy, how do we close our videos?
Daddy?
Yeah.
See, don't push this button then. Don't push this button. This button's right there. The subscribe button's right there.
Oh, the subscribe button's right here?
And this button right there.
Okay. We'll say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Don't push this button.
Don't push the disc button, push the subscribe button.